Okay, hi everybody. It is the last installment of Love Talks, which was a series of discussions I've been having with industry professionals surrounding love, dating, and relationships during the month of February, it being the month of love. And my final discussion, and we're wrapping things up with Diane Taylor tonight from Elevate Love. And we're discussing exactly how to do that, how to elevate love in your life. Whether you're single in a relationship or out there actively dating, we're going to share and impart some wisdom on how to create that energy in your dating life to elevate love, to ideally get the relationship that you're wanting and craving and deserve in your life. So Diane, I'm going to pass it off over to you so you can share with everyone who you are and what you do and about your company, Elevate Love.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Andrea, here tonight, and especially in the month of love. And as a part of such a great series, I'm really honored to be here. I'm Diane Taylor. I'm a relationship and intimacy expert, and I coach people on how to remove the blocks that are blocking them from the love that they desire in their lives. And when we unlock those blocks, then we can elevate love and connect on all four levels, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual realms, and really develop a higher level connection and the love that we all desire.
Fantastic. And they can find you online and through social media as well. So if you're watching the show tonight, you'll see at Elevate Love 8 is Diane on Twitter. She's got a wonderful Facebook page as well where she imparts daily wisdom, and she has a beautiful website too where she's sharing information. Are you doing your articles weekly, Diane?
I'm doing some articles for other publications. So I typically blog for Elevate Love every 2 weeks around. So there's usually some new content up there every 2 weeks.
Fantastic. And Diana has been kind enough to share a gift for anyone that's watching this evening and wants to do a little extra work offline once you've listened to us tonight. She's offering her ebook up. So we've posted the link already. You can email her for that ebook, and we'll do that again at the end of the show. So let's kick things off with what elevating love really means to you. Like, right. What's the energy behind that? What does it mean to you, Diane?
Absolutely. So our society is really uber focused on the physical and mental realms. We spend most of our time connecting with ourselves or with other individuals in those two realms, either physically or mentally. And especially, you know, with relationships, you talked with another one of your guests about the physical biological responses when you first meet someone and start dating. That's, you know, all contained nicely in the physical realm. And that's a definite foundation that we need to build and grow and nurture. But there's other pieces that you can really move to. And if you nurture those other realms, you're going to build a sustainable, solid, forever, happily ever after with your partner. And those are, you know, moving to the mental and then the emotional. And then from there, the spiritual, or the what I refer to as the purposeful connection. So if you elevate from the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and you can connect at all four realms, you will elevate your love and your love connection with your partner.
Fantastic. I've got someone calling in, but we're just going to dive into sort of the groundwork of the work, and then I'll invite people to pop on. So hold that thought. I believe it's Anna that's wanting to pop on. So my question for you then, Diane, is that when you're not ready to date yet, or maybe you're feeling a little negative surrounding dating or love and relationships, what sort of groundwork can you start to foster to elevate love in your life when it's not there?
Right, absolutely. And first of all, if you're not feeling like you're ready to date, then that's a very good thing. You're ahead of a lot of people. What tends to happen is a relationship will end and people want to get right back out there before doing the healing period. And that's a really critical period. And during that healing period, which can be, your desire not to date or be out there again, you want to focus on your connection with yourself. And instead of going for answers outside of yourselves by getting back out there and, being online and going out to clubs to meet people or wherever, really taking the time to go inwards and connect to yourself and caring for yourself. And like I talked about at the beginning, really uncovering or unlocking some of those blocks. And it's a good time to reflect on your past relationship, if there was one, and think about what worked for me in that, what didn't work for me, when certain things were making me feel certain ways, what was good, what was bad, how did I like to feel, how did I like to connect. Reflecting will give you some clarity to move forward, and then really working with yourself to create what you desire in the future, just with your relationship with yourself. Your primary relationship is with yourself, and however you connect yourself, however you respect yourself, whatever boundaries you create for yourself is what you'll attract in the future. So that's the advice that I give to people is step number one is connect to the primary relationship, and that's yourself. And so if you are one of those people that's afraid to get out there, there's still work to be done, and congratulations for being aware of that and take those steps to connect with yourself.
So what are some of those steps that someone can be taking? A lot of people are speaking these days, and you see big movements online and through social media professing self-love. But what does that exactly look like? It's one thing to say it, but what are some of the steps that people can be taking? You do mention doing some relationship reflection and even some self-reflection.
Yes.
But what are some actionable steps that people can take to start fostering a level of self-love for themselves?
Right. And self-love it's a continual thing. It's not something you go out. It's not an event. Self-love is a journey. It's like peeling an onion. There's lots of layers to it. And again, it's in those 4 levels. It's in the physical, the mental, the emotional, spiritual. A lot of people get lost in, oh, I'm doing self-love. Yes, I went out and I got myself a pedicure. That's self-love. And yes, it is, but that's in the physical realm. You want to connect with yourself and love yourself in all 4 realms. So you might go get a pedicure, or if you feel good after you work out, you might want to, go and do your walk every day, or go to a great yoga class and work. If you can think of 2 or 3 things to do in each realm. So those would be things in the physical realm. Go get a new hairstyle or those things. Pick 2 or 3 things in the physical realm and then move up to the mental realm. How do I open my mind? How do I nourish my mind? So that might be to if you're focused on relationships, you might want to read a book about relationships, or you might want to do some thinking around, that's where the reflection can happen about your past relationship and what worked and what didn't, or thinking about what you want to manifest in terms of what type of partner you want to be with, and most importantly, how do you want to feel? Because the feel is the sort of gap or the next step between the mental and the emotional realm. And in the emotional realm is where a lot of the blocks happen. And this goes back to, our formative years, our childhood, where we came into the world as perfect human beings, open and loving beings. And then we had stuff happen to us, and that created either grief or shame or doubt or fear. And all of those things block love from entering our lives. And typically what happens is that goes into the subconscious mind. So we might not even be aware of. So if we start to take that time to really work on, okay, what are some of my emotional blocks? What are some of my spiritual or purpose blocks in the subconscious realm? We are going to be really empowered to move forward from there. And these things aren't easy. So the step one, if anyone on the call tonight wants to get my free workbook, they can just email me at diane@elevatelove.com, and I'll send you a copy of that book. And there's some exercises you can do to get you moving towards that. But also working with a coach or working with a counselor. If there's some trauma in your childhood, maybe you want to consider a coach or counselor to work with to move you forward.
I think a lot of what you touch on and what is so wonderful is, if I can give it a different description, is almost encouraging or nurturing a level of self-awareness. Right. What I see a lot with dating is people sort of put their heads down, or they go and they date a number of people, or they might keep on repeating the same sort of actions, or they're dating to avoid something. So when you can start reflecting, like you mentioned, and creating a higher level of awareness about the choices that you're making and how you're feeling while you're dating and while you're alone. Lots of people love to touch on the word lonely. I'm lonely. I like being with other people because I'm lonely. But you can be very lonely inside of a relationship as well. So digging under those words that you're using and finding out sort of the root of where they might be coming from, and having a higher level of awareness while you're making those choices and why you're making them.
Absolutely.
Because as you said, it's the subconscious that starts to sneak in. So, we said words like self-love, and we talked about, self-care and doing those sorts of things as well to bolster and elevate love in your own life. I think it's great as well for you to practice being the person that you most want to be and you want to have in your life.
Right.
Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, and that's where what I call is living in integrity, because what I see a lot of is, women or men making, their wish list for their future partner. Yeah, that's completely out of integrity with the way they live their lives. So they might want, someone that is 6'4" tall and, has a six pack, yet they never go to the gym. You have to be very clear and have that clarity around what you desire. However, you also have to be in integrity with that. So otherwise there's that, it's an energy mismatch and it won't ever happen.
Well, let's talk about energy, because if you're not living and making those choices within integrity, and you're maybe attracting, you're frustrated with what you're attracting, right. Are we back to doing some self-reflection as to maybe how we're living our own lives and what we're attracting into it? Can that maybe be a signpost for people while they're dating?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what happens is whatever we attract or whatever type of relationships come into our life, everything is a mirror. So whatever relationships if we are in a relationship and there is, this person won't commit to me. And I have a pattern of coming to relationships where there's a fear of commitment. And, our conscious mind is telling us, I want to be in a committed relationship. Well, there's something on a subconscious level that you also have a fear of commitment. So whatever is being reflected back to you is actually happening within yourself. And that's probably an area, if that's an undesirable thing in the other person, that you want to work on in yourself and figure that out. Where is that coming from? And with the first step is just, asking, okay, I'm aware that I might have we'll just use the fear of commitment as an example. I am aware that I have a fear of commitment. Bring that forward to my conscious mind. Just ask, make a statement for that to be brought forward in your conscious mind. And then be with that. And within, the next couple days, a couple weeks, some stuff will naturally unfold for you to give you some kind of awareness around that, where you can dig in and remove that block so that when you move forward, that that becomes less of a challenge.
I'd like to add too to that statement that when you're acknowledging those things, and if it's causing a fair amount of discomfort, you've probably hit the nail on the head.
Right.
And I think we avoid things when it's uncomfortable, but there's lots of gifts in the discomfort. So if you say it and you have sort of like a knee-jerk reaction, like, oh no, it's not me, it's them, or no, that's not right. I really encourage you to look a little closer and sit in that discomfort and maybe doing a little digging around, because having sort of that reaction is typically that's exactly what it is. And also in other people, if there's things in other people that drive us nuts, it's typically something that resides within us as well. Wouldn't you agree, Diane?
Yes, absolutely. We can't identify something in someone else if we don't have that within ourselves. And that goes for the positive things and the negative things. There's something rubbing up against us that, is saying that's definitely within us. And my favorite, way to look at it is when you're pointing a finger, there's 4 fingers pointing back at you. And people like to look outside, but really, they say, well, you can't change a man. Well, you can't change anyone. The only person you can change is yourself. You can change, what you're attracting, what your blocks are, how you're responding, what your expectations are. The only person that you really have control over or who you can change is yourself. And that's the best place to start.
Great. So we're doing some self-care, self-love, we're nurturing, we're looking within. What about, so you're doing all these things, and I think through them, you're going to start feeling better about yourself. Anything you nurture and love is going to feel better. You can't nurture something and it feel worse.
Right.
But I also believe that it comes down to a big shift in attitude about things. So to help foster a more positive mindset and shift that energy to the positive, what other key things can people be using? I've heard, and I myself have used, like positive affirmations, journaling and doing that sort of thing. Is there anything that you typically like to coach or direct your clients to work on if they're needing a real shift in sort of their line of thinking to having a more positive mindset?
Yes, absolutely. And I like the, letting go is a big piece of it for me. So it's like whatever is the negativity or the holding back or the fear or what is the negative piece of this, discussion in your mind, I like to have that set free. So my method for doing that is to write that down. I don't want this. I don't want this. I'm angry about this. I'm frustrated. I'm finished with this. And dump that out of your body. I really strongly believe in mind-body connection and that those kind of emotions and feelings change our cellular makeup and can cause disease in our body. So it's good to get those out, write those out on a piece of paper and then light it on fire and let it go and transmute that into something else. So that's step 1, let it go. And then add in, I like affirmations, or, something called the painted picture where you imagine yourself, like say you're going to start dating, you're feeling you've done the work, you've gained clarity, you've connected with yourself, and you want to start dating, that you pick a date 6 months from now. So let's say you pick summer, we'll pick July 15th, 2016, and you write out a statement as if it is actually July 16th. So you write, this morning I woke up and, it's a beautiful sunny day. And I decided to wear my white capris with as much detail as possible. Yeah. And, I heard, that Ed Sheeran song on the radio that I love so much. And as I, came downstairs, there was my love, the love of my life. And he handed me a cup of coffee and kissed me good morning and said, "Good morning, beautiful. How did you sleep?" That's called a painted picture. So that's going forward and imagining the life how you want it to be. So anytime that's with something like that or something like an affirmation, the reason where some people don't like affirmations, and the reason they say they don't like them because they don't work. Well, the reason they don't work is if they're only words, they won't work. But we use the words to encourage the feeling, or we use the painted picture to encourage the feeling. And that's what elevating out of the mind into the emotion, from the head into the heart. And by bringing it into a feeling, and if we can actually feel how we desire to feel in that loving relationship, there's an energy field around us like a big magnet, and it attracts exactly what we desire into our life. And it works the same with the negativity. And that's why we want to write it down and dump it. Because if we're feeling like, oh, I'm so undesirable and I'm so bad when it comes to meeting people and I've never had a successful relationship, that energy will attract again the same thing that we've had before. Or I'm always in an abusive relationship. Same attracts same. So we want to move ourselves to the feeling of how we're going to feel when we're in that relationship that we so desire.
And so very right. And I know sometimes people that really don't necessarily embrace or practice the spirituality behind everything, to just put it in plain terms, even when you're describing what you just did, when you were using the negatives, your body language is different. Your facial expressions were different. So it does come from the inside out. When you're upbeat, even when walking down the street and thinking positive thoughts, it shows up in your face. Time and time again, you can go out and practice this, just walking down the street and thinking a different positive attitude or thinking about something special in your head. It registers on your body, and you will see people react to you differently. It is really that simple. I think on a broader scale, from a spiritual base, it goes even deeper, but just in the very simplified way, you change your physicality and your way of interaction with others based on what's happening inside your head. And why wouldn't you want to tell a positive story? So that's a great tip, Diane, in helping people really make that shift and elevating things in their life.
Yeah.
Now wanting to shift into the dating world. And, we might be beating this drum a little bit tonight about positivity, but I see it even with people that are online dating and they're trying to attract others. And Nicole, Haley, and I talked about this actually on one of the first talks about being careful of the language that you use, because it'll start creating the story without you even being aware of it. And that being so imperative even with online dating, or when you're on a date with someone on a first date and you're making that first impression, and we're so highly tuned to what's happening between the two people, about the dialogue and what it is that you're saying with to each other, and what you're writing on your online profile as well. You want to be professing what it is that you're wanting in your life. So if you got some key things that people should be touching on when they're on a date or they're trying to get a date, and how to elevate love?
I think it comes back to, being authentic, and in the profile, you can be like what I use, the example or metaphor that I use for authenticity is a cheese metaphor. So when you're not your real authentic self, it's like one of those processed cheese slices in the little wrap, the package. And what that comes across as, when you're not being truthful or when you're not being authentic, there's some kind of blockage. People know that, or you're attracting this weirdness. So don't be that processed, wrapped up cheese. Be the real deal. Be the real authentic you. So a lot of people are like, I know I used to be afraid of putting my true spiritual self out there. After, being in the corporate world for 20 years, I wanted to be corporate Barbie and be, the strong, independent woman, and not let anyone know that I love astrology and I read angel cards and, believe in things of different dimensions. But that trying to be that corporate Barbie instead of the true essence of who I am as a divinely created individual being blocks, or there's some kind of level of mistrust. So I think it comes down to, in the profile, is really figuring out, okay, who am I? What's distinct or unique about me? And getting back to that, how do I want to feel in a relationship? What type of partner is going to make me feel the way that I desire to feel in a relationship? And then keeping that in mind as you draft your profile. I think it's important to keep it light, to be, articulate, but I've seen profiles that, tell your life story, that as you get to know a person, that will unfold. You don't want to give it all away. You want to have some, level of getting to know them over time. So I would say, keep it light, keep it authentic, be true in terms of stating what it is, what you desire. And it's okay to state, as a woman, for you to state, this is what I desire, or even as a man, this is what I'm looking for. I think there's people out there that feel like, it's just this is who I am. And, if anyone, thinks that's okay, contact me. But to have some desires is a good thing. It's a positive thing.
Yeah.
And then I think for the first date, obviously there's always some nerves on the first date, but just, people always say, and it might sound a bit trite, but just be yourself. I've heard of stories where if someone goes on a first date and they're with someone and they say, "Oh, I love hockey." And so then, the person wants so badly to be in a connection. They're like, "Oh yeah, I love hockey too." Or, you don't have to say, "Well, actually, I don't know anything about hockey, or I don't love sports really," but you could say something like, "Oh, tell me what you like about hockey." And they might say, "Well, it's, the experience of the fast-paced something, something, something." And you might have a different experience that is not hockey or not sports related, where you get the same high. So what they experience when their team puts pucks in nets might be the same experience you have when you're doing something else, when you're going for a walk or you're climbing, you do climbing or something like that. You get the same high. So, but what people tend to do is they want to just make this connection. So they put on this mask of, "Oh, I like hockey." "Oh, really? Okay, I can do that too." And they change from their authentic being to be something else to try to make that relationship work, which in the long term will never work. It will work in the short term, but not in the long term.
Yeah, authenticity is so very key. I've been doing a lot of research recently, and anyone that's familiar with Dr. John Gottman's work, he's the man behind the Love Lab. So both him and his wife were studying couples, and they put them in an apartment setting, and they would ask them key questions, and they would see how they would interact. And what he discovered through his studies, and I think this is really key with the topic we're talking about right now, is women in particular, the number one thing that they look for in man is trustworthiness. And the one way to establish and develop and create that foundation of you being a trustworthy person, to deepen that emotional connection, is being who you are, saying what you mean, and doing what you say. So utilizing that either in person or online, I think, is so very key. In this day and age, there's a lot of waffling and quite a bit of flakiness and things happening, in particular online, that you wouldn't normally see. So I think to really elevate that level of love in your life, what you said resonates so truly for me in being your authentic self. Because why would you want to align yourself with someone that isn't you're not connecting with on an authentic level. As you said, you know, it might last for so long, but then the jig will be up. You want to truly, you want to state your opinions, be who you are, but you want to be someone that follows through and says that and does what they say they're going to do. And that's key for any of you guys out there listening, for women. I mean, we're talking years and years of research. And I would assume the same is for men as well, is having someone that's going to be there for you and create a level of connection on an emotional level, and not the surface level of, you know, the ins and outs of everything else. Do you have anything to add to that,
I see
Diane?
there's, you know, quite a few men on. So, you know, and hello, I see a hello from Nadeem. Hey, buddy, great that you joined us tonight. But for the men that are online dating, there seems to be an awful lot of photos with sunglasses. And as a woman, we really want to see your eyes, because the eyes are the window to the soul. And we can't see if we can trust you if you have sunglasses on. So, you know, if you look super cool and that's your best look, maybe add one of those at the very end. But please don't leave with that.
Yeah. Yes, no, I would agree. And it, you know, you in a sense are doing a bit of advertising when you're online, but you want to advertise yourself authentically, you know, and you did that cheese analogy earlier. There's nothing that's even remotely like cheese in those plastic wrapped processed things. So you don't want to be plastic wrapped cheese, gentlemen. Or ladies, for that matter as well. You want to own and be who you are, but I think to lead back to the beginning of this discussion is you want to be putting a person out there that you are proud of and you are happily living a full and complete and passionate life. And that's how you're going to attract the people that you want in your life. So that's that number one step in how to elevate love, is you to live a true and authentic life yourself and to do the things to nurture you. I love that word. That's my word for 2016 is nurturing. It's really that simple. If you nurture what you want in your life, it will grow and become abundant. That is your love life, your bank account, or anything else. If you're nurturing and loving it and giving it the attention and care it deserves, then it will grow and blossom and turn into this beautiful thing, which leads us getting into a relationship. So someone's been dating for a little while. What things can you do to secure that connection with that other person, to continue to elevate love in your relationship? Because a lot of people, once they get into the dating and, you know, everyone, they've given each other the title of boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, that they then become a bit complacent. And they get a little lazy in their relationship. So what sort of things can they be doing, Diane, to ensure that that continues to grow?
I think the important thing to understand is that a relationship is a living body. So just like a plant, if you have a plant in your home, you have to continually water that plant. And you said the word complacency. That's the number one marriage killer out there, I'm sure. But once you're in a relationship, once you're in a marriage, you have to continue the courtship. Courtship isn't pre-marriage and then you get to the point where you're exclusive and then you change your behavior and you just, you go to the same home every night. So you're physically present with someone and that's it. Back to those 4 levels, you need to continue to connect. Mentally, connect emotionally, connect on your purpose level. And I really believe that if we all ran our relationships like we run business, we have, meetings on a monthly basis with our teams. We have a quarterly check-in where we review our objectives. So if you're in a marriage or, a committed relationship, I really believe in having, a sort of an annual kickoff meeting where we say, what do we want to achieve in our relationship this year? What do we want to do to nurture our relationship physically? Another very common thing for marriages is, the sex stops or the fun sex stops. But in the courtship, it's, all sorts of fun, crazy stuff. But
It should always be fun. Who wants non-fun sex?
Exactly.
No, thanks.
Exactly. And that's the core, and we need to continue that. So we want to continue to nurture our relationship physically, sexually, but also, having that meeting where we, where we open the door for our partner to share some of their fears with us, some of the things they're hoping to achieve, so that we're connecting more on the heart level. And, what is our purpose? What do I want to do with my life this year alone? What do you want to do with your life alone? And what do we want to do together? Because, I love rom-coms, but there's nothing worse than the Jerry Maguire, you complete me, and the expectation of, half and half equals one. If you believe in that, you're setting out to fail big time. So, continue.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Robert.
So we've had Robert jump on. What are you wanting to ask or share with us, Robert, with regards to our topic of elevating love in your life?
I think that love in your life should be a two-way street. I know it's cliche, but I think that there is a certain amount of shit that might come your way when it comes to maybe your girlfriend or your boyfriend, but there's a certain amount of shit that may come their way in that. And I think at ultimately the end of the day, you could say, okay, we can talk about this. I think communication is key. I think it's ultimately key. And they can go, and sometimes somebody may say that this is not optimal, but I think that it's optimal that they don't go to bed angry.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, you always want to find resolution, and I would agree with that. And any relationship is just that. It's a relation between two people. So it's each person contributing. It's got to be a team effort. A relationship can never be one-sided. Yeah. So everyone that is involved needs to be doing things to elevate that relationship for sure. I would agree.
Yes,
Diane,
absolutely.
Wouldn't you?
But on that same sense, I'm going to say that I don't think that there isn't some possible moment in it doesn't matter what time of life it is or whatnot, that a guy or a girl can't just have that beautiful moment of, like, that cinematic moment of saving them and just kind of like putting them into a romantic cinematic moment. Sometimes that happens.
Well,
sometimes it doesn't.
What do you mean by saving, Robert?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking in cinematic terms. So I'm thinking if I have to posit, then it would be kind of like if a husband is kind of capitulating to his mother for what his wife has done, and his wife is going above and beyond and basically defending him and saying, no, you know what, this is my guy, that's it, and vice versa. You could do that, but I don't know. I mean, I call it the save the cat moment, which is basically there is one little thing that needs to be saved, and somebody could just jump in. It doesn't matter if it's the guy or the girl, but they could save it. And sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But I mean, I think that when that does happen, it could be in a marriage. It doesn't have to be, but it could be in a relationship. That is the point when they're like, I kind of want to jump your bones right now.
So are you talking about championing your partner then when maybe you're hitting a rough patch? You're stepping above and out of your ego, and you're championing the other person.
Above and beyond, yeah. Championing, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're not always on our A game, and I think a level of grace and understanding for a partner is very important.
No, of course. And we realize that.
Yeah, and championing someone, I would agree with you there. As long as there's a balance, and it's something that you touched on earlier when you first hopped on, which was having a conversation about it. And communicating is so very key, so that if those situations are coming up, and it's not being shared how it's affecting or making your partner feel, that's when resentment can start to build and things can unravel a little bit. Did you want to touch on that, Diane?
Yeah.
Thanks, Robert. We're going to dig into this a little further. Thanks for hopping on.
I think, absolutely. I think that, in a loving, connected relationship, there's times when one partner is going to step forward and, lead or, come to a point where they need to hold the other up for a short period of time. And I think the important thing is exactly what you said, Andrea, is you said balance. And it's not about going in with an expectation to this relationship that I'm going in to be, rescued by this person, and that's what the relationship is based on. When you're in a partnership, you're part of a team and you have that same purpose or spiritual alignment, and you're connected there, you're going to do whatever is right for the team at that time. And you look at it more of, rather than saving the other person, you look at it, we need to do this to move our team forward, to move our partnership forward. And sometimes that's the two of you moving it forward. Sometimes that's one of you coming in to give a little extra hand. Absolutely. That's sort of the give and take that's in any human experience. So that's what I would add to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, another way of elevating the love in the relationship is giving that level of grace and understanding that, someone might be having a hard time, and being there to rally beside them and champion them, if you will. We'll use that word again. I love it so much. But that it doesn't stay there, and that you still are articulating what your concern is, or it might even just be for them, and to talk your way through it and keeping that dialogue open. We've talked about integrity and authenticity and clarity. And I think communication is another one of those key things that you could be using when you are heading into a relationship and when you're in one, to definitely elevate love in your life. Are there some key things that you want to have maybe a higher level of awareness on when it comes to communication, Diane? First thing that kind of pops into my head is asking for what you need and sharing how you're feeling. What would you add to that?
Yes, and I think, everybody has a different style of communication and a level of comfort in communication. And I think it's about one of the most powerful things for couples to do in a relationship to connect and to develop their communication style is ask questions. So, you could say, this is how I feel. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts? But I think a lot of times women might feel more comfortable because we have not been oppressed in the emotional realm. So communication is easier for us. And we can talk about our feelings. And so we expect the men to reciprocate, where men have not been able because of the generational impact on them to flex that muscle, because they would be perceived as weak or, sissies if they communicated their feelings. So women, we go into a relationship and we, here's how I feel, blah, 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 blah. How do you feel? And the man goes, and there's a withdraw. We need to be aware that there is a difference in our ability And that's no fault of them. It doesn't mean that they do not have feelings. They do. They have deep, raw feelings, as deep as ours. They're just not as, they haven't practiced communicating them as much as we have. So I think, one of the biggest pieces of communication or in any other pieces of the relationship is for us to provide space. Instead of demanding, or, they may, a common thread for men and women is woman chases man, and then man withdraws. Well, man is withdrawing because there needs to be that space. And when we rush in to fill up that space, they need to take a step back. So if we can keep that space, so in when we're communicating, we want to allow that space. When we're being, we want to have that space and help create that space for them to step forward and feel comfortable communicating. So that, I guess that's what I would add.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. And I wholeheartedly agree, and might add that I think we sort of take things for granted sometimes about the differences between men and women. And even in the realm of my profession, I've done a little digging and did a focus the last 2 weeks. 1 week was all on women and noticing the nuances and differences with them and how they communicate and feel and process things. And then this last week I did it on men, and we're very similar in a lot of ways, but in other ways we're very different. And it's, if you can spend a little time, even with your partner, or if you're dating, or even doing some self-reflection and learning what some of those differences are, so you can have more compassion and understanding and maybe some empathy for the people that you're meeting or interacting with, or in particular your partner. Diane, you touched on it earlier about how we're raised and the influence of our parents or the relationships we have as we mature really do affect us. And a lot of the time we don't take the time to sit back and think of how. And having a level of appreciation not only for yourself, but if you're entering into a relationship, having it for that other individual too, and creating that space to have that dialogue, especially if someone hasn't been able to practice. And each of us are a little different, but you're certainly true. Men, they're not really encouraged from a young age to embrace and show those feelings, because it's shown as a weakness as opposed to a strength. So let's maybe just briefly touch on vulnerability, and then we'll see if there's anyone else that wants to hop on with any other questions. I think that's key. And we talk about weakness and showing emotions and sort of this perpetuated idea with, sort of traditional line of thinking. And if anyone out there's read any of Brené Brown's work, she's researched and studied the topic. And vulnerability is more an act of courage than it is of weakness, and being able to expose who you are and ask for what you want. What sort of things can people be doing, Diane, would you encourage them to do to start practicing vulnerability as a means of elevating love in their life?
Definitely. And I'm a big fan of Brené Brown as well, and the work she's done. And, she talks to her research around shame. And earlier I was talking about how we come into this world as these perfect human beings and bodies of love. And then stuff happens in our life, and shame is one of those. And when we experience shame, it decreases our vulnerability or our willingness to be who we truly are, because we feel shame around parts of ourselves. So that's the piece to work on with ourselves. And that's the love block that we need to unblock within ourselves in order to step towards vulnerability. And without vulnerability, you will not ever have a true connection. The other thing is, you also hear, and I'm sure you hear this a lot, Andrea, as a dating coach, about the, vulnerability is necessary, and we want to encourage it, just not on the first date. There's some some over abundance to share, some people, and it comes down to a timing thing.
Yeah.
It's you want to step into or lean into a relationship, slowly get to know each other before if you're comfortable, before you put everything out there on the table. So, that's something to consider. But in terms of if you feel awkward or uncomfortable about being vulnerable, it's probably related to something that you're experiencing shame about. And if you can start to bring that to your conscious attention and maybe do some journaling about it, and if that's not getting you to where you need to go, then definitely a coach or counselor can help you dig that out, pull those roots so that you can experience vulnerability and that true connection in the love that you really desire.
Mm-hmm. I think a key question to ask in those situations is why. I love that exercise of, asking a question and saying, you get your answer that comes up and then you say why. And then another answer might come up and you'll ask why again. And if you keep on asking the why, eventually sort of the root cause, your aha will come up as to where that might come from, and then be able to process it effectively. You're right, there's certainly coaches out there that can assist you in that, but even just beginning so you know what your direction is and doing a little self-reflection is so very key. And with regards to being vulnerable on the first date, I think you have to be vulnerable on a first date, but you're right in the oversharing. I mean, you're being vulnerable in the sense that you're going and putting yourself out there to connect, to meet with someone else. But it doesn't need to be a scary situation by any stretch of the imagination. You can go in just with the confidence that you've already done the work, that you're happy and content with who you are, and go in super curious. You mentioned questions earlier, and that's so very key. And being curious and asking questions and going in with the mentality of I want to learn about this person is actually some of the key steps you can make in building a foundation of trust with another individual, so that you are creating an environment where both you and them can become more vulnerable in sharing who you are and what you want, and those dreams that you spoke to earlier, Diane, about creating what kind of relationship and partnership you want. And I'm surprised in the work that I do how often people don't necessarily know the answer to that question. What is it that I'm wanting? They might have a list for what they want in a partner, but they don't know what they want with regards to what a relationship will look like and what their part and parcel will be in that, as opposed to just what they're wanting to glean from someone else. So having that nurturing mentality would be another way to elevate love.
Yes, absolutely.
Would you not think so?
Because, that comes back to the clarity piece. If you don't have clarity on those key parts, then you're not going to be able to attract, or you might attract partially, but then be in a relationship that isn't sustainable because you weren't clear on other parts. And, that if you nurture up front, you gain the clarity, you nurture yourself up front, you can either do that, or, unfortunately, how I came to the place of being, a relationship coach is through trial and error, and spending, the first 40 years of my life getting it wrong and learning the hard way. Now I know the pieces that I was missing about consciously creating the relationship that I desire, and have found success in that. So, but it's through that process, and you can do it one of two ways. You can go on several dates and date many people and, connect on one or two levels, but be missing some key things, and then go back to the well again and go back and go back. Or you can gain the clarity, connect with yourself, nurture yourself, create the energy that you desire. And it will be, maybe less chances out there, or less trips out to the well.
To the well. I love it. Yes. We're all thirsty, but we want to be going to the right well. I love it. I love it. So let's do a little synopsis of what we've talked about. And then if there's anyone out there where, you know, any of these points sort of click or perhaps make you feel a little uncomfortable or that you question or challenge, we'd love to hear from you in the final kind of 10 minutes of the talk here. So break it down for us really quickly, Diane, and sort of the key points that people can have a heightened level of awareness in acts or behaviors or beliefs that they can start adopting. Absolutely. To elevate love in their life.
We talked about clarity. So you want to gain clarity on what type of partner you desire. You want to have clarity on what, how you want to feel. This is one of the most critical pieces that so many people miss is how do you want to feel in your relationship, whether you're going to start dating, you're dating now, or you're in a relationship. Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean that you can't apply what we're talking about, because this will enhance your relationship. And then you want to start to figure out maybe 2 to 3 ways in each of the 4 realms, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and spiritual realms, of how to give that to yourself, how to nurture those feelings within yourself, because it's about the feelings that is going to create that energetic attraction and that magnet towards you. So those are sort of the 3 key things. And I don't like to give more than 3, otherwise it's overwhelming. If you start to do those things, and again, I have some exercises in an ebook that if you're interested, just send me an email at diane@elevatelove.com, and I'll send you the ebook and you can do the exercises in there that will move you closer to those things.
What a wonderful gift. Thank you so much, Diane, for offering that to everybody tonight. Was there anyone that wanted to hop on and had any questions or wanted to dig a little deeper into any of the topics that we've touched on tonight? You can either pop a question in the little question box, or you can grab a seat and take advantage of having Diane on this evening and ask her any questions about elevating love in your life. I think what we've talked about is really key, and for me, what I'm taking away from it is even heightening that level of awareness in your love life with yourself and your love life, whether you be dating or in a relationship, and nurturing it in order to invite through that energy of nurturing the love that you're wanting in your life. And clarity being key, because it could show up and might not even know that's what it was. So very important in having that clarity. You can find Diane, is it elevate.com?
Yes, elevatelove.com.
Perfect. And you can find her on Facebook as well with the same name. Hashtag on Twitter. You can always tweet at her tonight at elevatelove8. My name again is Andrea Hill. I am the creator and founder of the Dinner Party, which is a service I provide for people to help them connect more authentically while dating. And I also do dating mentorship. So you can find me at jointhedinnerparty.com. And you can find me on Facebook at the Dinner Party Vancouver as well. And it's at Join the DP on Twitter. We've got our delightful friend, Jill Prescott, who's hopped on, and she's sharing all those links for you. Thanks, Jill. And I hope you enjoyed this evening's talk, and we'll start taking steps to elevate love in your life. That's a wrap for this month's Love Talks. I'm looking at continuing the series, maybe 1 or 2 a month. So stay tuned. Keep your eye on Twitter to see when the next talks will be. And Diane, I'm sure you and I will be joining forces again to take on another exciting topic when it comes to love, dating, and relationships. I thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. And thank you for everyone who joined us.
Yes. Thanks, everyone, and have a lovely Monday evening.
Bye.
Bye for now.